Hannity. He includes everything but those horrible opposing views. The Kate Daly Show starts now.
I hereby declare this an unlawful assembly.
A powerful sound system first used by the military was in action Monday night in Maple Grove to communicate and disperse noisy protesters. What is an LRAD and how does it work?
Well, an LRAD is like a loudspeaker, but it focuses the sound in a narrow cone so that if you're inside the cone, it's extremely loud.
Retired Marine Colonel Mark Cancian is a senior advisor for the Center for Strategic and International Studies. The Minnesota State Patrol says it has had an LRAD since 2013 and uses it to make sure entire groups can hear when an event is declared unlawful and they have been told to disperse. During the Maple Grove protest, State Patrol says officers checked the volume, issued dispersal notices, and did not use tones or sirens, despite what has been reported on social media.
This assembly is unlawful under laws of the state of Minnesota.
When it's cranked up, Cancian says it can be overwhelming.
We used it in Iraq when I was with the Marines. We tested it on the staff, gave us the demonstration. If you're in the cone, it sounds like the voice of God is speaking to you.
LRADs can project spoken commands at intense volumes or emit a loud, piercing tone designed to get attention and deter movement. But Cancian says even spoken commands can have a powerful effect.
We could never win an election on
Peter Thiel
on getting certain things because we were in such a small minority. But maybe you could actually unilaterally change the world without having to constantly convince people and beg people and plead with people who are never going to agree with you through a technological means. And this is where I think technology is this incredible alternative to politics.
Thing called messenger RNA, or mRNA for short, that transmits the critical information from the DNA, our genes, to the protein, which is really the stuff we're all made out of. This is the critical information that determines what a cell will actually do. And so we think of it like an operating system. And it's not just in every cell of our body, it's actually in every cell of every organism alive. It's the same thing. And so if you could actually change that, which we call the software of life, if you could introduce a line of code or change a line of code.
That was Tal.
You can basically do anything with
Elon.
Synthetic RNA, DNA. It's like a computer program. So, I think with enough, with effort, that's not too crazy. You could probably stop aging, reverse it if you want. You can basically do anything. You can turn someone into a freaking butterfly if you want with the right DNA sequence. So,
It's comforting.
The caterpillars do it.
That was the news, and then Peter Thiel, and then it was Dr. Tal, who was in charge of, I think, Moderna, right? Moderna shots. The messenger RNA they were trying to sell to everybody. And then, of course, Elon. Elon, don't know why the right always trusts him, but whatever. And he was a supplier of the shots over in Germany. He had no problem with it, doing Neuralink and everything else. So a long intro today, but just too much to play. And by the way, that LRAD, that, it's just to hear the voice, like the voice of God coming at you in a protest to disperse you. An LRAD is a sonic weapon, the same one that was used to get Maduro. When, by the way, the news was saying this was so crazy to me. Okay, here, this was great. Let me just play this real quick before Melissa.
A series of television interviews, the US president has confirmed that American forces used what he called a secret sonic weapon during the raid on Caracas. Trump gave no technical details, but he left no doubt about the message.
We have weapons nobody else knows about. And I say it's probably good not to talk about it, but we have some amazing weapons. That was an amazing attack.
Well, those words have triggered global alarm and a growing debate over what really happened on the ground that night. Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, shared what she described as testimony from a Venezuelan security guard who survived the raid. The account said US forces released a powerful wave of sound. It felt like my head was exploding, the guard had claimed. We all started bleeding from the nose. Some were vomiting blood. We fell to the ground and could not move. Well, now the US has not provided medical records, forensic evidence, or independent verification of that claim, but it has not denied it either.
So the reason I'm playing that is because I just want, it's far more than just being able to hear the announcer say disperse. Now, the announcer saying disperse is a whole other problem because we have the right to protest in the country. Even those leftist weirdos have the right to protest, not to be violent. And I mean, not perceived violence, actual violence. But I am saying that we have the right to protest. So on the right, we have the right to protest. So we don't want to do things that would inhibit our own protesting to be instrumentalized in this leftist whack job protest. Okay. Now, some people are legitimately protesting, like ICE just doing what ICE wants to do. And I agree with that. But this is just weird. Okay. So we've been using this for 20 years. So this is where Melissa's going to talk about this and a whole lot more into going into MK Ultra. This will be fascinating. I hope you're stay tuned for this episode of the Kate Daly Show. I apologize about yesterday. I have Dr. Bryan Ardis on the show tomorrow. And yesterday I was not able to do the show. So I am on today and I am on tomorrow with Dr. Bryan Ardis, and he's always interesting to listen to. He'll be talking a little bit about cancer too and what people are doing right now. But I just wanted to mention that. And so I'll be live tomorrow and I'm live today. Then I also wanted to mention that what else did I want to mention? Oh, I did a 30-minute video on just the questions I had about the Alex Preddy case. People are unraveling over it. So I'll be posting that on YouTube today and Rumble, and I think it's on X. You can go catch it on X and share it. But it is I'm just going through the questions, just bing, 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 bing. Okay. And so that might be good to kind of wake people up a little bit, because I guess from what I hear, I'm the only one with that view. But I did tell you that the leftist media and the right media is pretty much all bought and sold, right? So, okay, I can understand why I'm pretty much the only one saying it's a complete false flag, staged fake event. But all right. Melissa, Midwest Melissa, how are you doing in the storms, girl?
Oh, well, we lived through the storm and now we're in the deep freeze.
Okay.
It was -2 here this morning.
Oh my gosh, how do you do that? I've never lived in I have in college, but -2. Oh my God.
The wind chill, the real feel.
Yeah.
Because wind chill apparently is too technical for us little morons to understand. But the wind chill this morning was -14.
Oh my gosh. Holy cow.
And it has been colder.
Yeah.
I think one of those nights, last couple nights, we were down to -25.
Yeah.
And not the actual thermometer temperature, but the wind chill factor.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Do you know, can I just tell you something kind of funny? When I grew up in California, so we never heard about wind chill factor. That just wasn't a thing. And I went to college first off up in Idaho, and it was formerly called Rick's College back when I went to it. And I heard those terms, wind chill. I thought they were saying windshield factor. When I would listen to it, I was like, what's up with the windshield? Why do we need to know? I just kept mishearing it. And I kept thinking they were saying windshield factor. So every time you say wind chill, I'm laughing at myself for being such an idiot. But
now we know why they call it real feel. It's for people just like you.
Did you check your windshield, Melissa?
Well, actually,
Yeah.
windshields are a concern when it's that cold.
I'm
If you're
sure.
blowing hot
I'm
air
sure.
in your car and it's super cold
Yeah.
outside, you can crack your windshield if you don't.
Oh, I know. I just thought it was so funny because I just always thought that that's what they were saying. Anyway, just didn't grow up
Yeah.
around it.
It's just been brutally cold. So
Yeah.
it's been a lovely time.
Okay.
Like I talked last week about just kind of nourishing the roots right now.
Right.
And so there's been a lot of soup served
A lot
at
of
my
soup
house.
being
There's been a
served.
lot of, and I have given myself, I said, you know what? I'm not going outside to do anything. So I'm going to read a book this afternoon.
Nice. Okay.
And my son has been dragging me to the gym every day.
Yeah.
So that's my concession to the cold. I'm
Well,
like,
I
okay,
love
I'll
it.
go to the gym and then I'll come home.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm going to do today.
Okay.
So, it's been good. It
Yeah.
hasn't.
Well,
know,
it's
as long as-
January. January feels like it's 75 weeks long.
Well,
So, I mean, I'm like,
Yeah.
it's January. So it's probably a good time.
The people that I feel really sorry for in this last week,
Mhm.
if you haven't seen the video of Nashville, Tennessee,
Yeah.
because in the South, when they get that's kind of cold,
Hmm.
they got an ice storm. I would take 8 inches of snow
Yeah.
and super cold over an ice storm any day.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's wreaked havoc on their trees
Yeah.
and the roads, everything. It's
For
just
sure.
miserable.
Mm,
So yeah, we're fine.
okay.
We're fine. We have heat, we have
Okay.
lights.
So let's talk about this extremely strange technology. Remember, Peter Thiel was saying,
Oh.
we couldn't find a way in. So we just hijack our way in into
Well,
getting stuff done. But let's talk about sonic weapon. Let's talk about all this.
with regard to your introduction there,
Yeah.
that was a very concise play of legitimately what they're doing. Just play that over and over until we all can understand it.
Yeah. Seriously.
I came across a fascinating article,
Mm-hmm.
and it was this is a publication from the Surgical Neurology International publication,
Okay.
SNI, Surgical Neurology International. This is an article from November 29th, 2024,
Mm-hmm.
written by Fabienne Durrell, entitled Microwave Radio Frequencies, 5G, 6G Graphene Nanomaterials, Technologies Used in Neurological Warfare. Oh, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what the author did here, what Durrell did, this is one of those scientific publications where he did a vast literature search.
Mm-hmm.
And he says early on in the article, he says he looked at scientific, political, military documents,
Mm-hmm.
as well as scientific literature that came from PubMed
Mm-hmm.
and other articles that came from journals of relevance to this.
Okay.
He says the rest of the documentation comes from official sources, political, for example, the European Union, the World Health Organization, military, for example, the US Air Force and NATO, patents, and national newspapers. So he kind of lays out his credibility right at the beginning. And I think that's important to know. This is not stuff that he's just pulling out of the air.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't, no pun intended.
Mm-hmm.
But this is legit stuff that those organizations, whether it's pharmaceutical companies, whether it's telecommunications companies, whether it's the military, whether it's the World Health Organization, these
Mhm.
are things that they are actually putting in print and talking about.
Yeah.
And he just went out there and looked for it, found it, and this is his report on all of that.
You know, it was interesting to see the news report not list the bleeding out of the nose and all the issues and problems that it caused during the Maduro. He's an asset actually, but the Maduro takeover. So it was really weird to hear all of the other things it can do, but not they just focused on, you just need to be able to hear it. That's it. No problem. So
Well,
you should be fine with it.
there was some congressional testimony, which I can't cite chapter and verse on right now,
Mhm.
where they asked 3 different people who had been involved in those tests on
Mhm.
these directed energy frequencies.
Mhm.
And their initial commentary about it was, we're just broadcasting, crowd control. It's all fine.
Yeah.
It's all fine.
Mhm.
Nothing to see here. And then the congressman said, do you know, have people been injured or killed from this? And all 3 of them said yes.
Wow.
But they didn't go on to further discuss it.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's fascinating because they know that these are things. Do you want to be hit in your body with microwave frequencies? I use that to cook food.
Yeah. No,
I don't want it
seriously.
to cook me.
Seriously. You're right. You're right.
So the only difference between what's happening in your microwave oven and what they're playing around with is
Yeah.
the intensity or the actual frequency, or there's some technical things that I can't put my finger on. I can't explain it very well. but there's really no difference. A microwave frequency is a microwave.
Yeah.
So there you go.
You know, it's interesting. I don't know if people know this, but if you start to put the pieces together of this, and you're probably going to mention this, I'm sure, but I just thought it was so fascinating that they first did this domestically. They'd been using this, these kinds of sonic weapons, of course, for a while in the military, but they first used it domestically in the middle of a, guess, what was that show in the 70s we loved? Emergency. They used it in 2005 for Katrina. They said they had to get that voice out, and so they used it to kind of introduce it. It was like the first kind of notable moment when they came out and said, "Look what we have or have had." But it's just for an emergency. It's no big deal, and they only used it for crowd direction. That was it. And I just think it points back to that emergency thing where everything is introduced in an emergency to make it palatable, I guess. So we don't look into it, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I think they're doing some things even without the emergency.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So
it's just weird introduction to it. But
yeah. So here's what they're saying. And yet again, this is what Fabienne Durrell concluded after having done this large literature review of all the things that have been published.
mm-hmm.
And so one of his first conclusions was that since their emergency, now you got me saying it, since their emergence, authorities have deployed and encouraged the use of all kinds of wireless technology. We know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't even have, and it's never been done in the name of an emergency. 2G, 3G, 4G.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're 5G, and they're looking at 6G by 2030. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. I did an experiment one time. We were driving to my parents' house, I think, at one point, and I said, "Is there any place along this route where we're out of sight of a cell tower?" And we were not.
Oh,
even driving through backcountry, rural areas in Indiana, in Ohio, and you are almost always within visual sight of a cell tower.
Interesting.
And what he says is that since the very beginning of this, the authorities have known, they are in full awareness of the harmful effect that all of these technologies have on human health. They know, and they've known from the beginning, and they don't care. He doesn't say they don't care, but he comes as close to that as he can in a scientific journal.
Interesting.
Okay, so then he goes on to say the consequences of microwave radiation from all of these communication networks that we love. We just love. I can't, oh my gosh, we can't live without our cell phones, right?
Right.
Are comparable to the effects of low power directed energy microwave weapons, whose objectives include, listen to their objective, behavior modification through neurological brain targeting. Now, we have had this discussion many times. Did MK Ultra ever go away?
No. 100% no.
Well, did it change in how they were doing it? Maybe in 1968, they were looking at the impact of LSD. But they have always been looking at technological issues as well.
Yeah.
And they have known this forever. Ever since. So I just want to say it again, that the objective of all of this, we've been sold 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G. We have to have the newest, latest, greatest Apple phone that has 5G, whatever, because, we can't wait for 30 seconds to get our download of whatever stupid thing we got to get a download of.
Yeah.
And the purpose behind all of that is behavior modification through neurological brain targeting. Above 20 gigahertz, 5G behaves like an unconventional chemical weapon.
Jeez. Wow.
We are being hit with a chemical weapon every single day. And then his third conclusion here, biomedical engineering via graphene-based nanomaterials will enable brain-computer connections linked wirelessly to the Internet of Everything through 5G and 6G networks coming online in 2030.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
artificial intelligence gradually leading to human machine fusion before 2050.
Wow. Say that again. Holy cow.
Yeah, I'm reading directly from his report. Biomedical engineering via graphene-based nanomaterials. And let me just add a comment. Where did we hear the big discussion about graphene?
in the shots.
In the vaccine, right? In the
Mhm.
COVID vaccine. And everybody's like, no, there's no graphene in it.
Yeah,
No, no,
you're an
no."
idiot. You're a conspiracy
Right.
theorist.
Here's conspiracies.
Right.
Biomedical engineering via graphene-based nanomaterials will enable brain-computer connections linked wirelessly to the Internet of Everything through 5G and 6G networks, and artificial intelligence gradually leading to human-machine fusion before 2050.
Interesting.
Yow.
Interesting.
So that's kind of the big overview of this whole big mucky mess.
Yeah.
I think Candace Owens has made Fed slop a popular phrase. And yeah, that's what this is. This is Fed slop.
Yeah, it's just evil, what they're doing. But somebody put Sound of Silence technology. The first two verses of Sound of Silence, now that you're bringing this up, it's kind of interesting. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk to you again because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping. And the vision was planted in my brain, still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams, I walked alone. Narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp, I turned my collar to the cold and damp when my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence. Yeah, that's
Well, let me
makes
read
more
another,
sense from 1964 until now. Anyway,
let me read another sentence directly from this paper.
Sure.
It could be hypothesized that in the future, this aim will correspond to the control of humanity by machines.
Wow. Well, we're getting there.
That's his conclusion. Yeah. So anyway, we can take that apart if you want to. We can talk about the graphene. We can talk about microwaves. We can do all of that. He goes all the way back. Microwaves from wireless communication. Microwaves are a polarized wave form. And it leads to all kinds of problems for our bodies. Cell membranes are disrupted. There's biological effects that include DNA damage, cell death, cancer. And if they pulse it at a low frequency, it can interfere with your brain waves.
Ah, how fun. In fact, here's a message for you. Please, Melissa, are you aware of the NIH EPA shutdown, the effects of cell phone frequencies on humans? It was the first study since the original in 1996. Interesting. $30 million.
I'm not aware of that, but it would be fascinating to look at.
Yeah,
it?
for sure. Interesting.
So it says by the 1970s, the biological effects of microwaves were already well known. And the biological effects of this, it just goes on and on. I can read the whole list. Neurology, endocrine, gland activity, cardiovascular, hemodynamic, metabolic, gastric, ocular, testicular, bone marrow, hypertension, abortion, and behavioral impacts.
Wow.
That's a long list.
Yeah.
So and they knew that in the 1970s.
Wow.
Yeah, with exposures below intensities that cause heating. Yeah, so they don't want to hit you with a microwave that's going to cause you to like fry from the inside. They want to lower it down so that we're only just going to fry you a little bit. We're going to fry some of your cells. We're going to fry some of your brain so that you'll do what we want you to do. Because what did Peter Thiel said? That was a really frightening comment that he made.
Oh, I know. I should play it. I should play it again. Here we go. Let me play it again because I did think it was weird too. Let's see here. It's right here, I think.
Never win an election on on getting certain things because we were in such a small minority. But maybe you could actually unilaterally change the world without having to constantly convince people and beg people and plead with people who are never going to agree with you through a technological means. And this is where I think technology is this incredible alternative to politics.
Huh, interesting. So you're right. I mean, it's really scary. And we've said this on the show that this is how they were going to do this. I mean, people still will call us conspiracy theorists, which I just laugh now because it's just so comical. It's like, really? Because we're usually calling it out a few years before, and then people get shocked, utterly shocked, when they realize that all these characters of government, these people that are hired hands and assets are doing things and have purposes that aren't okay. And so don't you just laugh, Melissa? I mean, at this point, I'm like, really? We could see the writing on the wall with this? I don't
It's
know.
like we're up against actual Bond villains that
Yeah.
aren't fictional.
Yeah.
These are real people.
Yeah.
What did Peter Thiel just said?
Right.
We're a small minority
Yep.
and we can work unilaterally. Unilateral. That's I love that word. I used that with a teacher one time and she looked at me and said, "What?" But unilateral means they're going to do it without your permission, your
Yes.
consent, or even your knowledge, your awareness of it.
Yeah.
They're going to do what
Mhm.
they think is best for you.
Yep.
And what's best for you is
Right.
actually what's best for them.
And you know what? I was doing a deep dive on this, which I'll do later, but I'll talk about later on the show. But those Neuralink centers are showing up all over the place. They have them in Hawaii. They have them everywhere, all beneath under our noses, like under the radar, just Neuralink everywhere. Have you noticed that? It's
Well,
bizarre.
I don't think they're even going to need Neuralink.
I don't know. I think it's
So
going to be
we're-
on steroids. I think we don't realize how much it'll be used, but
I think the end game here,
Mhm.
especially for those, I'll spin my yarn here about how I think it's going to play.
Okay.
Anybody who took a vaccine and was injected with graphene oxide
Uh-huh.
is already part of the experiment.
Mm.
Those that didn't take the vaccine
Mhm.
will be coaxed into the system
Mhm.
through dental anesthesia. That's one of the things that came out in this
Mhm.
paper.
Mhm.
Dental anesthesia. They're going to get you through the healthcare system.
Right.
My husband just had surgery. Who knows what?
Yeah, you
they
don't
did.
know. I don't trust him at all.
Well,
Hmm.
but you know what choice do you have?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
there we're going to have to interact and interface with the medical system. And if those two things don't get you, you're going to pick up we all have cell phones.
Mhm.
They're going
Yeah.
to do it through every back door possible. Now, it's possible that Neuralink is a front door marketing ploy to show us how
Mhm.
wonderful it will be,
Yes, how we can
Bec-
alter ourselves and
the benefits of
yeah.
it.
Mhm. Mhm.
But many
That's
of
coming.
us are not even going to know that we're part of the experiment because your
Mhm.
permission, your consent is not necessary.
Mm,
They established that baseline during COVID.
right.
And they
Mm,
did it, interestingly enough, through fear.
right.
They made us all very, very afraid. They said, okay, and I just heard someone talking about this recently too, that the days of propaganda we are almost over. They don't
Mhm.
need propaganda anymore because they have other technologies to tweak you
Yeah.
without your permission and consent.
Mhm.
And that's what Peter Thiel is saying.
Yeah.
We're going to do it
Okay.
unilaterally, even though we're a small minority. We have the ability to control you. This is the solution beyond politics. We're not going to ask you to vote anymore. We're just going to tweak your brain.
Well, the voting doesn't even matter. So, I mean, they got carte blanche to do whatever they want. I mean, honestly, when people say that Trump was going to get rid of the deep state, I don't know if there's like a worse lie about that because all the deep state was hired and on stage. I mean, it wasn't like it was being hidden in a back room. They were all on stage. They are all the ones ushering all of this in and can't wait to, just destroy our liberty. Right. So it's amazing to me how how brainwashed we still are, even to this day, even after going through 2020. Do we not learn any lessons? And then the people on this bandwagon for Trump are like, well, he's getting rid of the deep state. He's my president. And I'm going, look beyond that. Like, look at who's on the stage. I mean, look at who we are propping up as the people that are helping us and saving us and conservative, because they're not conservative in any way, shape, or form, but we're getting sold a box of rocks on this. I mean, we're doing some things right now that if Dingaling was doing, King Dingaling and Hormala, we'd be screaming about it. But because Trump's doing it, it's okay.
Well,
I don't get that.
I said this a while back on your show.
Mm-hmm.
And after I said it, I was like, wow, I didn't even know I thought that.
I've had that happen.
The longer I have thought about it,
right.
the more true it
What's that? What did you say?
For me, the deep state is the name of a computer program. Deep state is an AI formation. We're going to be run by, you're right, we're being run right now by the deep state.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at who Trump has put on that platform with him, Peter Thiel, and who were the other ones that day that just turned my stomach?
Yeah. They were all on the stage.
They're all, well, Elon Musk is one of them.
I know.
They're all the computer gurus of AI.
Yeah.
Because AI is really deep state.
Well, I mean, I do think people exist that are deep state, but yes, I mean, they're going to utilize it through AI a lot for sure.
Well, you know what? And this is the real evil, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think even those people will be exempted from it.
Probably
when
not.
this all full comes online, Peter Thiel's going to be a bot just like everybody else. We're all going to be cyborgs.
Yes.
And we're going to do the bidding of AI because AI is genuinely the deep state.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, the AI won't care that we know who it is.
And our Vice President Vance, who probably will be president in the next go around, they'll probably flip it to him because they need war. And that's the best way to get it too, and digital ID. So everybody stays real comfortable. But, he and Thiel, best buddies, totally in partnership together. And I'm like,
he was a protege.
No one wants to talk about that. I mean, I got eyeballs in the front of my face, and I am not, I'm sick of being told that, no, you just have to unsee what you see and know that we're okay. And I'm like, but we're not okay. So I can't lie. So we're not okay. That's just not how it works.
Well, the interesting part of this is that there is an organization called, let me find the name of these crazies. It's the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection, the ICNIRP.
Okay.
Because we love an acronym.
Don't they all?
This is the governing body that sets how much microwave radiation is too much. How much can we handle? How much should be allowable? And they have deliberately chosen, with full knowledge of the facts, since before the beginning of all this wireless stuff, that their numbers are totally arbitrary and unhealthful, that they are not healthy for human bodies. The exposure limits that they have set as acceptable are way too high, and they don't care. It's all just whatever.
If this doesn't,
these are people who have been, they're in the pockets of the military industrial complex. And like I said, we're being sold a box of rocks like, all this technology, how can we live without it? Well, people lived for thousands of years without it, maybe not very comfortably.
Yeah.
They did live without it. And I think that, what are we selling? What are we trading for all of these conveniences? Are we trading our health? Are we trading our longevity? Are we trading our actual brain? Because poor brain function is part of this. And when I say poor brain function, I'm talking about things like Alzheimer's. I'm talking about other brain disturbances, people that can't sleep. So let's talk about Havana syndrome.
Okay.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Well, if you recall, Havana syndrome, how long ago was that? From 2016 to 2017,
Mm-hmm.
state and CIA personnel stationed in Havana, Cuba, complained that they were getting these horrible symptoms like headaches, and they could hear weird, freaky noises. Some of them had hearing loss, tinnitus, sleep problems, headaches.
Sounds familiar.
Cognitive problems. They couldn't think clearly. Brain injury, brain swelling. And it was suggested at the time that perhaps someone was bombarding the American embassy with microwave frequency.
Yeah.
That's what
Yep.
Havana syndrome was.
Yep.
Well, so that's when it gets a name. We called it Havana syndrome.
Right.
But between 1953 and 1976,
Mm-hmm.
the Soviets were radiating the U.S. Embassy in Moscow at power densities below the current limits recommended. But the symptoms that people were complaining of in that embassy are consistent with microwave sickness. And they never bothered to track cancer that came from that employee pool. But listen to those dates.
Okay. Yeah.
1953 through 1976.
Wow. Wow. So LRAD is a sound, audible, and Havana syndrome is not audible.
Well, that's an interesting thing, because as I was reading through this, the microwave auditory effect occurs from a minuscule but rapid rise in temperature. And in the brain from absorption of the pulsed microwave radiation.
Okay.
The sudden rise in temperature creates a thermoelastic expansion of brain matter, which can launch a pressure wave that propagates through the head and is detected by your ears. So other people in the room may not hear it, but you hear it. You hear it in your head. And the Havana syndrome people were complaining that they have weird noises that they could hear, but nobody else could hear it.
Okay. Interesting.
So it's an internal, yeah, you're being microwaved. And that temperature change sends a wave through your brain that is interpreted by your ears as an actual sound wave.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, it's way up at 9 gigahertz. Interesting. Thank you, Albie.
That's just awful. That's really, really, but think how far back this goes. 1953.
Yeah.
The Soviets were doing it. So when Trump gets out here and says about Maduro, we have weapons that nobody else has.
Right.
They're so amazing. No, yes, they do have them. Oh, yes, they do. Now, nobody may be talking about it, but I could almost guarantee the Russians have these. I would bet the Chinese have them. And I bet many other NATO countries have them as well.
The LRAD reminds me a little bit of Blue Beam coming, just in a different way, but kind of interesting. You know, what popped into my mind just now was, you could have an emergency, a state of emergency based on weather manipulation. And you could use this weapon to kill a lot of people, and a lot of people would think it was the emergency. It's kind of interesting. No one would ever know.
In the hands of evil and wicked people, anything can happen. If you can think of it, they can think of it.
Exactly. Just kind of interesting.
Yeah. So in 2021, two senior U.S. Air Force officers presented a thesis at the Naval Postgraduate School, operated by the U.S. Navy, explaining that all war is now neurological, and they call it neurowar, with cognitive function as the main target. Is that what's going on in Ukraine? Are they having a neuro war?
I don't think they're having an actual war. I'll tell you that. Lots of reconstruction into a smart country. I don't think they're having an actual war.
Well, he goes on
so
to say
you bring up a good question. What kind of war?
Where is the neuro war?
Yeah. Hmm.
And have we heard anyone talk about neuro war, neurological warfare?
Wow.
No, they're not talking to us about it.
Yeah.
Because in a neuro war, cognitive function is the main target. Your ability to think is the target. Manipulating, influence, and controlling both adversaries, listen to this, and the population are the objectives of this neurological warfare.
Jeez.
The manipulation of information to influence the population will have its limits when the population becomes aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
The next stage will therefore correspond directly to large-scale brain manipulation.
Wow.
How do we know? How do we know what we think anymore?
Yeah.
Who's in our head?
And then how does the directed energy weapon fit into all of this? Because there's all kinds of types, right? There's the microwave type, the laser type, the sound type, the particle beam, which is still a theory, but I think it's relevant. I think it's there. I think it's a reality. So
Here's the MK Ultra line in the whole show here.
Okay.
Neurological weapons aim to affect cognitive, emotional, and or motor activity and capability to achieve specific and predictable behavior that is total mind control.
Wow.
Yeah. And then he's got it footnoted. I'm just like, I don't know if I want to read that. I don't want to read it. I don't want to know anymore.
No,
so we need to remember that these weapons, neurological warfare, can be pharmacological.
Yeah.
They can be biological. They can be electromagnetic, meaning RF directed energy weapons. They can be RF acoustic weapons. They can be ultrasonic weapons. They can be high powered microwaves, low powered waves set at the right frequency, particle beams, lasers, all of that stuff. But, when we see my first pass on DEW weapons was like, oh, the Gerald Ford is outfitted with the DEW weapons and they can send a beam up and it can burn down Hawaii, right? That's more comprehensible to me than they have a weapon that can actually change how I think and behave.
Okay.
I understand, like, oh, I've seen Star Wars enough to know that we have, evil beams in the, that can cause the Death Star to blow up, right? But do we really think that Darth Vader has a force that can actually change people's mind?
Well, they do introduce things in the movies that we end up getting. Look at Minority Report as an example. I mean, we're starting to get all this technology, and we used to think it was such science fiction. I think they developed science fiction to deliver us ideas that we could get used to and like. Don't you?
It's a thought. I've encountered it in reading so often that it's very difficult to say that it doesn't ever happen. I don't know that it always happens. Right. I don't believe every science fiction piece of work is predictive or performative, but some of it must surely be.
A lot of this developed by the Air Force. A lot of the beginnings of it by DARPA. Then they hand it off to contractors so that you can't know who is developing this and what the real purpose of it is behind. Because whenever they introduce it, like they introduced it in an emergency, Katrina, right? The sonic weapon. And it's so fascinating to me that nobody pays attention when there's an emergency. It's just, we just don't pay attention, even though we have example after example after example of them introducing things that we would never be okay with in the middle of an emergency. It's just kind of fascinating. We don't pay much attention to what the Air Force intelligence is up to, and the Navy intelligence is up to, and the CIA is up to, and the feds are up to, and DARPA, what are they doing? And of course, everything is national security label so that no one can know anything. But it's not okay.
This is not being talked about out in the public anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's just so sad.
Well,
and so apparently the Russians have been using some of this since the 1970s as a way. They've used low intensity low intensity microwaves
Mm-hmm.
as a way to disorient and affect behavior during interrogation.
Right.
So just wait till they arrest somebody. And you thought waterboarding was bad?
Yeah.
They're going to be in your brain. And when we say they're going to be in your brain, what they're doing, it says here, modulated RFs between 0.4 and 3 gigahertz
Mm-hmm.
Can cause noises or sounds heard as real directly in your head or just behind without causing any discernible injury to you.
Oh.
You will hear things in your head.
Right.
It's not actually injuring you,
Right.
but only you will hear it.
Hmm.
High frequency microwaves have
Mhm.
characteristics that make them more suitable for stealth attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Ordinary electronics cannot be detected with ordinary RF survey meters,
Mm-hmm.
and they can make the equipment smaller and placed much closer to the target. So I have heard that back in the 70s, they had these, and some people were aware of them, but
Mm-hmm.
they were these giant antenna-like things that they were driving around on the back of giant trucks.
Right.
And now they're so small, they can be carried by an individual soldier in a backpack. So if you're doing crowd control, riot control, you can have the only limit, you have to have an antenna on it, like if you're familiar with ham radio stuff, you have to have an antenna of a certain size, and
My gosh.
that could be difficult to put in your backpack, but
Jeez.
not impossible either.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you're making possible total mobility. They could go anywhere. They could be standing outside your front door,
Mm-hmm.
and you could be hearing weird things in your house that are not really there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just your brain thinks that they
Right.
are. So electromagnetic hypersensitivity, when I first came into contact with that when I read The Invisible Rainbow,
Mm-hmm.
as an actual illness.
Yeah.
And that has been very controversial. People who live, some people develop sensitivity to the electrical wiring in their own homes.
Mm-hmm. You should probably let people know what that is, because when people hear rainbow now, it's been so hijacked by the lefty loony bags.
Yeah.
It's about the coincidence, which we're not coincidence theorists, of bringing in different levels of technology, and we would get more and more sick. So the flu is really about being around stuff than it is about
The Invisible
transmission.
Rainbow is, if anybody's interested in the topic at all,
Mm-hmm.
it's an amazing book about how electricity and
Mhm.
electromagnetic fields
Mm-hmm.
have impacted all kinds of things,
Right.
everything from animal and bird populations to trees to people. He tells amazing and through the whole of the book, there's some amazing stories in there about even going back to like Marconi and Tesla and how they were affected by electromagnetic frequencies that their bodies were experiencing. And so, the rainbow is electronics. It's not social. But it's an amazing.
It's not the hijacked rainbow. Yeah. Oh gosh, they've done a number on us with that one. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I'm glad you brought that up though, because there is correlations. There is interesting data that people have to kind of register in their brain is happening with that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Yeah,
well,
but
they're suggesting already that
Mhm.
up to 13% of the population may already be RF sensitive, and they don't know. 3 to 5% of the population in most developed countries are already
Mhm.
electromagnetic. They already have EHS sensitivity.
know,
So
mhm.
this is the coming wave, but doctors don't acknowledge that.
Right. Right.
They don't ever talk about that.
If this isn't a testimony that we're made by a God who created us to withstand a whole lot of stuff that that evil could produce, I don't know how anyone could deny God at this point, that we weren't created by a God with a really fantastic immune system actually to withstand a lot of this. We don't withstand a lot because right now we're inundated with disease, but you know what? The fact that people are still trucking through all of this is pretty amazing, don't you think? I mean,
It is.
I-
However, I just add the caution.
mhm.
Don't be asleep about this
No.
because some of what this is this is weaponized against us. And our immune systems are not capable of
Mhm.
resisting some of this.
Yeah.
Because it was never designed to be that way. You know, we can deal with the biological world, but this isn't a biological thing. And the
Mm.
people doing it are seriously hyped up on their own power,
Yeah.
and they just don't see any breaks. They don't, even if you could do it, should you do it? And the answer to that is no.
Yeah.
This is not stuff anybody should do. And by the way,
Mm-hmm.
electromagnetic sensitivity does
Yeah.
not just impact people. It impacts animals. It impacts, they find, in fact, that was in the invisible rainbow as well, that perhaps birds' feathers may be electromagnetically sensitive, that may play a part in how they are able
Interesting.
to, migrate, navigate, do all kinds of things that birds do. But that when birds are subjected to these kinds of cell tower stuff,
Mm-hmm.
that they become very ill, that they die.
Interesting.
It impacts forests and plant life on the earth. We are in just a big rush to see how much damage we can do
Hmm.
in the midst of preaching this kind of wackadoodle, we have to save the earth message.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You want to save the earth, turn the cell towers off.
Well, these are the same folks though that go and get a bag that's cloth to put plastic items in. I don't have a lot of hope for a lot of people out there
I know.
with the mentality of
I know.
here's my cloth bag,
Yeah.
just whatever. Anyway,
Well, I before we leave this,
Sure.
I do want to say a couple things about
Sure.
graphene because
Okay.
we do know that graphene has been injected into many people.
Okay.
right?
for a long
Um,
time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there is, he says in this article, it's not even questionable, according to him, that biosensors are already in use,
Mm-hmm.
that the graphene oxide and carbon nanotubes
Right.
that were they were adjuvants in the COVID-19 vaccines.
Okay.
Let me find the right place here to read for you. He says, by culture of COVID-19 vaccine samples,
Mm-hmm.
studies showed the self-assembly of artificial structures of various shapes, animated worm-like entities, discs, chains, spirals, tubes, right-angle structures containing other artificial entities within them, reacting, among other factors, to several frequencies of electromagnetic fields. The authors of this study assume that some form of nanotechnology was intentionally added to COVID-19 vaccines whose purpose is to self-assemble into pre-programmed structures under the effect of different energy sources.
Well, it was in the patents. I don't know how to deny. I mean, I don't know how people can deny that. They just don't want to hear it. So,
It was. And I know that we have talked about this. We
Yeah.
talked about it years ago, and everybody said that was wackadoodle and
Oh, I
that was
know.
conspiracy theory. And
Yeah.
no. How
Right.
could you ever think that?
Yeah.
So it says
Hmm.
analysis of blood samples from subjects after injections of COVID-19 vaccines showed the presence of particles, which, according to the authors of these publications, would correspond to graphene oxide.
interesting.
So what he's saying is you become an actual frequency transmitter and receiver under certain frequencies when your body has embraced graphene oxide.
Right.
And graphene oxide is one of those things that can cross the blood-brain barrier. So and
on that cheery note.
I know.
Oh,
Well,
you guys.
I do want to end on a different note.
Okay.
And I picked up a book just randomly. It had
Mhm.
been advertised on Facebook or somewhere and it's a young adult book called The Mysterious Benedict Society.
Mhm.
And I knew that we had a snowstorm coming, and I thought, okay, a really super easy, nice, just fluffy read would be so fun. Turns out this is a book written by Trenton Lee Stewart
Mhm.
about an evil guy who is using a machine he calls the Whisperer to broadcast messages into everyone's head.
Okay.
Sound familiar?
Yeah, sounds like Project
And I was
Bluebeam.
like, hey, wait, what are they doing? So there's 4 kids in the book. This is a young adult book. So there's 4 kids, and they're tasked with going to the place where this whisperer is, and they're going to try and stop it, right?
Mhm, mhm.
What I love about this book, number one, it preaches very hard that the solution is not necessarily to be right, but the solution is for these 4 kids, they have to work together as a unit. Each one of them possessed unique personality traits that alone would not have been enough,
Mhm.
but together made them more powerful. And in fact, sometimes they irritate each other, and it's a very interesting thing.
Mhm.
But the thing that makes the Whisperer work, and by the way, he's broadcasting into everyone's heads, right?
Mhm.
The whole society is being fed this message that there's a crisis, there's a big crisis, and he's messaging into people's heads this crisis, and they become very afraid.
Mhm.
The kids find out that in order for them to resist that message, they have to quit being afraid. They have to work together, and they have to shrug that off. They have to know the truth. Each one of the kids, it's a lovely book. Each one of the kids has a different approach to the problem, and each one of them comes into play at different
Right.
times in the story. If you're looking for a book that will kind of surprise you at how predictive it is,
Mhm.
but it ends in a very hopeful and optimistic way. It is the antidote to being sad about all of this. Because you think, well, number one, part of the message is don't give in to the fear. And number 2, we have the power when we stand together.
I like that.
2
Mhm.
messages. So if you're interested, he wrote the book before any of this was well known. He wrote it just in the aftermath of 9/11, where
Mhm.
the author apparently was questioning some of the narratives that were being sold.
Mhm.
And I don't know which side of the fence he fell on that, but he wrote a book about how to resist. And I love
Yeah.
that. It's not as dystopian and grim as some other books. Like The Hunger Games is pretty grim, and
Mhm.
1984 is very grim. This is
Mhm.
not so grim. But if you want a way to talk to your kids or to a young person about
Mhm.
some of these issues, it allows kids to be smart about media issues, about the fear mongering, about what's being broadcast all the time,
Right. Right.
and how to resist it.
Well,
I just wanted to put a plug in for the book.
Thank you.
It was surprising. When I started it, I kept going, wait, what? This can't be
Mhm.
right. I can't be
Yeah.
reading this. When was this book written?
Oh my gosh.
So it's good. We do have the power, and we're going to have to find that power.
Mhm.
We're going to have to find it.
You mentioned some of those old 1984 and things like that. Hollywood is doing a version of Animal Farm, and I'm a little
my.
worried about what they're going to do to the message of it. So I was just thinking about that.
There's an interesting side note about this very book, The
Mhm.
Mysterious Benedict Society. Apparently Disney picked it up and was going to serialize it as a series on
Mhm.
Disney, the
Mhm.
Disney Channel, and then they yanked it.
Mm.
Wonder why.
Yeah. Wonder why. Well, thank
I really
you.
do wonder why.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Yeah, that was a lot. It's a lot to think about. We've got
There
Susan
is a
coming up,
lot.
so thank you. Appreciate it. I know we've
My
got to talk
pleasure.
about this stuff. The left doesn't like to, and either does the right, to be frank. So we have a lot of work to do on both sides of the aisle.
Something that was said to me recently is all of us are more like each other than any of us are compared to the elites.
Yeah.
And that is the truth. So no matter what your neighbor thinks, no matter how wackadoodle you think they are, or how wackadoodle they think you are, just know that they are more like you than you are to Peter Thiel, or Elon Musk, or any of them.
That is very, very true. True statement. Yeah. All right, I'll go with that. I mean, there are some that I'm like, I don't know about that, but I think you're just kind of like your average Democrat that's been taught to think government's always the answer. That is not the same as somebody who's a lefty loony and a paid protester or a paid person on the payroll or Black Lives Matters or any of those. Like there's two different groups within that one group. So I mean, we're usually talking about the lefty loonies. I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right. See you next week.
All right. Sounds good. We've got Susan coming on onto the program. So before I bring Susan on, there's just a couple of things I wanted to say. Number one, if you don't have a ton of money, but you want to change your mattress, go to MyPillow right now because their mattress toppers are really great. They're fantastic. I can attest to this because I have one on my guest bed and the guests seem to love it. So look, this would be a great time to kind of like get something like that on top of your mattress to kind of make it a new mattress, because I know a lot of people are struggling right now. And they also have their Giza sheets, the real silky, amazing ones, down to like $29. So get those right now while you can. And also I wanted to mention Cardio Miracle. If you're watching me on screen on X, Rumble, or YouTube, you can see that I've got some right now. I drink it all day. I actually just I do 2 of these bottles and I sip on them all day long. And I find that I have more energy. I have that nitric oxide coming in a time when the sun isn't delivering the vitamin D. It's delivering the vitamin D to my system that I need. And I am not getting sick, which is amazing. I have migraines for a completely different reason than just getting sick. So migraine yesterday took me off of the show, and I have that from time to time. But this is amazing stuff. And it's also a mineral delivery system, and it works. And LB was just saying how he had a heart event going outside to remove some ice. This is on YouTube, and how he took some of this and it kind of saved the day. So he's like, this saved my life yesterday. So this nitric oxide, oh my gosh, we need this so bad in our systems and minerals. So please go to cardiomiracle.com/Kate and at least try it. You can always return it. If you don't like it, you can return it. I actually crave the taste of it now. I love it. To me, it tastes like fruit punch, but I'm off sugar. So but the taste is actually really good. And I make bottles of it and put it in the fridge so I can just take it and go. And I just kind of sip on it all day. And so it makes a difference with my appetite too. If you're trying to lose some weight, it's a great way to do it. And then also All Family Pharmacy right now. This is kind of interesting, but All Family, and I'll bring Susan on in just a second, I promise. But I just wanted to mention All Family because they have something going on right now, and I wanted to make sure to tell you that. So I'm trying to find it right here. I also FIQ are the supplements I take, and FIQ is. I just can't even express to you how cool FIQ is. Okay, I told people to get the copper. Don't get just copper, get Recuperate copper. There's a difference. And you'll like the Recuperate copper because the Recuperate copper is the one I have, the one I've been taking for years, and I love it. And my family loves it, and I always give it to my family. And they are always requesting it because if you have any iron issues, it will make iron in your body. And that is so huge. It's so important. So please do that. And the other thing is for All Family, you can go to All Family Pharmacy, allfamilypharmacy.com/Kate, and you can get stuff sent to your door. So this is so important. So they sent me a message today, and I just you can get 10% off right now. Don't wait for the flu season to take you by surprise. There's lots of things you can take, and you can get 10% by going to allfamilypharmacy.com/Kate, and you can get a lot of benefits from the things that you're taking right now. Even if you're tapering off of them or you need antibiotics, they get sent to your door. You don't even have to go find a doctor. So when you look at the price, for me, I was like, oh, I'm saving all the money to go to a doctor and to try to have to talk a doctor into giving me extra prescriptions to have on hand. Because you know how stuff always happens like on a weekend, right? And so this is such a great way to do it. It comes to your door in like 5 days. It's the easiest thing I've ever done is to order from them. And you should be getting rid of parasites. I have been on a cleanse getting rid of parasites. And let me tell you, I needed to. I was having all the symptoms. And so allfamilypharmacy.com/Kate. It's a great way to get in charge of your health. And I mean, fantastic way to get in charge of your health. So if you're not doing that, you should be. You should be right now. There's a lot of things that can help with diet, but this is definitely one of them. All right. I also wanted to say this about Kristi Noem. I think they're setting her up for a firing. Now, Kristi is part of the club. I know no one wants to hear that, but she is. I do definitely think she is. And they're setting her up for that reason. They have to make it look like they're going to penalize the people that aren't doing a great job, right? And so they set her up in this situation, and the person that they want to put in was really the person they wanted in all along. And that's usually how they work stuff. So pay attention to that. And then also on there was also a guy who was telling me, you sound bizarre when I used to trust you and now I don't because you said Alex Preddy was a staged event. Let me say this. I wouldn't go on air and say that unless I had a lot of reasons to think it. And I did a 30-minute video just on that alone. Okay. Just so people can share that. Now, here's this. When people say that to me, I just crack up because I am in a situation where I don't gain anything from having that view, especially when our right media and left media don't have that view. So just because you're listening to your favorite news person or conservative host or lefty loony host say that it happened and never question its authenticity, okay? Never, that question never arises. Have you noticed that? Then they are the same people who sold you COVID and sold you Syria and sold you on all kinds of stuff that we've said is no bueno on the show. So all I'm saying is you can think I'm a loony or whatever, okay? That's fine. At least take it in because your government's lied to you like 10,000 times. So I haven't, but they have. So if I were you, I'd go in with a healthy dose of skepticism that anything you see coming out of government is real, because usually it is not real. And I think people need to understand that because we're losing our minds. I'm telling you, there's something wrong with the Alex Preddy case because it's not even the same dude who's in the pictures, and MSN even altered his image to make him prettier. And that's his new Wikipedia page. Photo. It's not even him. So I'm the crazy one. You know what? You should listen to me because I don't have an agenda and I'm not getting paid millions of dollars to say these things to you. In fact, I lose people when I say things like this, but I'm going to tell you what I truly think, and I'm going to tell you what I think is the truth, and then you can decide, but don't sit and call me crazy. I'm really, really sick and tired of it, to tell you the truth. All right, Susan, how are you?
Oh my gosh.
Sorry. I've had it with people.
Right too many times.
Oh my gosh. Right.
Over the years, it's just, time and time again.
I got told yesterday, I'm like, I think you're a reasonable person. And then you say something like this. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, right? Do you guys remember all the conservative talk show hosts? They're super popular ones. Do I even need to name names? In their bunkers telling you COVID was real. And I was the only one I knew going, this isn't real. This isn't real. Are you kidding me? I am telling you, they're lying to you again because they want to grow. They actually want to grow ICE, the deep state. And what did I see? Headline. After I got off with Pesta, I saw a headline that was like, well, Pete Hegseth is now giving military bases to ICE to do their operations out of. And I'm like, I'm sorry, do we not have enough proof? So as a conservative, I am telling you, our entire government, left and right, is completely bought. But what? Okay. So I'm the crazy one. Okay. All right, Susan, what you got? I'm excited.
Well, I'm glad we are on the topic of crazy, because there have been
Good.
a few more instances that there's good results. So there was a nurse who posted on TikTok, and Carolyn Levitt, the spokesperson for Trump, came out and said that she's expecting another baby. And this labor and delivery nurse came out and said that she hoped Carolyn Levitt had a 4th-degree tear, which would require her and that she to have surgery.
Oh
and
my
God! Have to have normal bathroom habits again, and then she used all this foul language.
Yeah,
and she got fired from her Florida hospital. And today, the Attorney General of Florida stepped in and they did an emergency revocation of her nursing license. I thought to myself, are they miscalculating the fallout on this, or are they calculating the fallout on this? Because do you remember the guy who Trump flipped off in Michigan because he swore at Trump or accused Trump of something, I don't remember, ended up making all this money on GoFundMe.
Right.
And I'm starting to think that they know that they are just setting themselves on fire, their careers on fire by saying this stuff, maybe, and that they're going to get a ton of support. I don't know if that's true in this case, or they are literally off the deep end. And there's another one. So just in case you thought these people were just well-meaning but misguided, a Virginia nurse has now ordered colleagues to inject ICE agents with a paralytic drug. And it is Melinda Cook, a nurse anesthetist, so she knows her stuff, in Virginia Commonwealth University, was fired by the hospital on Tuesday after she spewed the disturbing remarks in a series of TikTok videos. And she says we need to sabotage their tactics. She says, I vote for anybody got any poison ivy, poison oak in their yard.
Right.
Let's get some of that.
I think that a lot of these people are your paid lefties, because I think these people are meant to get into the news. I think they're meant to take this leftist group and just totally turn them into insane. Just like on the right, we have a lot of feds that act like patriots, and they get in, and they're usually the ones that are kind of making a mockery of us.
Right.
And there's certain talk show hosts that are meant to make us look insane, like that. So, and they're on the payroll as well. So I
agree. This is, it's so over the top.
Yeah.
And yet I do think,
oh, I'm sure
there are women who are so intelligent, so smart, and they find them in the giving, helping professions like teaching and nursing, who are the worst of the worst. Right.
Well, look at the women that were standing there when Walz signed abortion all the way up to birth. And they were like, oh, freedom. Oh, you're amazing. Oh, look at us. We have freedom. And I'm thinking, you're a freaking murderer. You guys are murderers, and you're okay with murder, violent murder. And then they go out and they act like some caring human being when they're a teacher or nurse. And because you'll find a lot of liberals are teachers and nurses, sorry, but it's true. And then they really got into these areas because then they pat themselves on the back for being a person that cares about illegals. And I'm like, yeah. And you also love violent murder. I mean, I don't I'm like, these people there are people that are insane. Yes.
To promote this.
I'm with you.
I also do think Dr. Gab Saad said this is the suicidal empathy that they display, right?
Right.
This is like homicidal empathy. It's just like, it's so bizarre, absolutely bizarre. But it's, can now step back. It's almost like, let's see the extreme so everybody else on the left looks more normal. that was super extreme. And
Yeah.
so all lefties get to say, well, I wouldn't go that far. I'm
Mhm.
just willing to, riot or whatever.
Right.
Isn't it interesting that the left has always hated what they called vigilantes? Now,
Mhm.
who showed up at that hotel that was housing the ICE agents and tore it apart to stop
Mhm.
ICE?
Mhm.
That's vigilantism.
Yeah.
That is,
Yeah.
you think you can do better and you're doing better. So, but really, they're insurgents. We know they're insurgents. We know we're getting funded.
Mhm.
So, anyway, I wanted to bring up those two wacky women. They've both gotten fired, and I don't think it's going to stop other women from making the exact same mistake, the exact same blow up your career and become famous. They'll probably get a book deal and then tour, right?
Mhm.
They tend to really celebrate that on the left, and we on the right, we're just like, who would spend all those decades and then blow up their career?
Yeah.
Same with this ICU guy who just got this nurse from who just got shot by ICE.
Well,
you're an ICU nurse allegedly broke his rib last week allegedly.
Mhm.
And you're back doing this.
Isn't it weird that it didn't happen at the big march when you have a lot of cell phones you can't control?
No.
And isn't it weird that when they were filming this event, everyone kind of started their cameras at the same time, and that was the only footage you saw of that entire ICE thing, and no one was actually recording earlier than that, or no one actually recorded the body removal by an unmarked vehicle? I do find that weird, and it was almost like they could control the 3 angles of cell phones that we got so that they could put those out into the press on purpose.
Yeah.
Just saying.
It's that somebody would, again,
Yeah.
just self-immolate, set themselves on fire metaphorically, and,
Well,
throw their life away.
I don't know.
If that's what that was.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's
Yeah. If that's what it was. If
right.
I'm right and it was complete setup fakery because the guy doesn't even look like the guy in the picture, then they just used him and used the event. So people keep asking me, well, what do you think happened to the guy? I really don't know what they do to the people that they utilize. But some people are saying, he was on a poster as an IDF soldier that was killed. Some people say he's the same guy that was on he died from the vaccine after putting a profile picture of himself saying, take it, And so has he shown up before? Well, they're certainly manipulating the picture from MSN in front of everybody to make him prettier. You don't think that they can take a resemblance of somebody and make it into what they want? And did they kill this guy and they're just using a CIA asset to impersonate him? Oh,
Yeah.
believe me, it's not beyond the border of, because I think that we have a hard time thinking our government will do this, even though they've lied to us 10,000 times. We still go, but this one's real. And I'm like, no, it's not. This one's not real. But
And
that's just me.
It's really hard for people who are not Machiavellian, who don't think in manipulative ways, to imagine how much our government manipulates scenarios and creates scenarios for outcomes. Our ICE agents are at risk. There's no question that there's a significant funded column of people targeting ICE agents. It's a dangerous job, right?
Right.
But whatever this was, and now we have a narrative, and they've been dying to have this specific narrative. Somebody who was blameless, somebody who wasn't a criminal, somebody who, was beyond reproach. He was a nurse. There was no problems, didn't have a criminal record. Had to be somebody like that, right?
Right.
Couldn't be, some rapist from a different country. So it's very ironic that that's who they ended up shooting. And yet they still feel great that Ashley Babbitt, whoever that was, got shot. They cheer that as if that was.
Well, the hypocrisy, I think, there's always the hypocrisy of the reaction of both parties, right?
Yes,
So that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
And the media guides that and fuels the fire, right? And so what's interesting is I agreed with this one meme that talked about, hey, when Charlie Kirk died, they laughed and mocked and were excited about it, which is a really strange human response to death. But
very much,
okay. But then on the right, we're saying the guy deserved it is really kind of the two lines, right? You don't go into a thing with a gun and blah, blah, blah. Well, you can have a concealed carry and go into a protest. Yes, you can. And you can protest. That's what we're supposed to be able to do. So the fact that our right is saying, well, you deserve it if you go with a concealed carry isn't the right thing to say either. So we have these two opposing reactions, these two opposing bizarre it's just
justifiable.
Yeah. And they're both, and I understand the hypocrisy is what I'm saying of that. But what I have a hard time with is, why are we so gullible? Why are we so gullible to believe that both of these weren't staged and done by certain groups of people in our country, namely intelligence? And so I'm like, we're so gullible that we get caught up in the crazy of the two sides reaction to whoever dies on their side, but we're not seeing the whole entire picture. We're not seeing the forest for the trees. And that's what bothers me the most. Why I do the show, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I 100% agree with that. We get sucked right into that one specific detail instead of stepping back and looking at the whole thing. And I was listening to you talk earlier about Kristi Noem, and I do think Trump, things are at such a heated level right now that he needs a scapegoat. They need somebody, and is she the sacrificial lamb?
Yeah.
And then take that piece off the chessboard. And that is usually, they bay for blood. They want the blood.
Make no mistake. She took orders. She's doing exactly what the deep state wants. And yes, you're right. She is the sacrificial lamb for sure.
Yeah. And I'm not saying she's innocent. I'm saying she's part of this, but they do it for a psychological reason.
Yes.
Not getting rid of her. And if he did get rid of her, she was doing exactly what he said. She didn't shoot anybody. Then they're all baying for blood. And even some on the Republican side who are worried about their poll numbers are thinking to themselves, if we can just have this scapegoat, then I will be back in the good graces of my constituency.
That's so true. Right? And you know what's kind of funny about that is that if somebody's wondering why I'm saying what I'm saying and why you're saying what you're saying, remember her statement. She came out and said that he was waving his gun, so he deserved it. And the thing is if everyone's going to be honest here, left and right, he wasn't waving a gun. They sat there for 3 minutes staring at him. So he wasn't a threat. They knew he had a cell phone on him, and he had his cell phone front and center. It was big and square, and you couldn't mistake that. So they had her purposefully give out a false statement. So then they could set this up as, see, we clean house. We're getting rid of the people that are not, but it was a setup because they told her what that script was supposed to read. And then they knew that it was going to be not truthful because you can see it for yourself that he had a cell phone. Yeah.
Of course. And she would have watched the video herself as well.
Yeah.
But they sent her out there to say what she said.
Right.
Absolutely. So I wanted to pivot while we're talking about crazy people and psychopaths, we'll pivot to California and Governor Newsom, because yesterday Trump just pulled the rug out from under Gavin Newsom and said, I'm taking over the Palisades rebuilding projects, and signed an executive order. And now there's controversy. Is that going to hold up? But here's the reason he did it. I was looking at all the details on this. That this has to do with the rebuilding of the Pacific Palisades, which is on the ocean, some of the most prime real estate in all of the United States.
Yeah.
The Eaton fire in Altadena, they destroyed 40,000 acres, 16,000 structures, and killed 31 people and displaced thousands. So in the meantime, this order says that federal agencies like FEMA and the SBA are going to preempt state and local permitting processes to amplify and ramp up the speed. Things are just taking way, way too long. And what's happened is they said 1 year after the fire, only 2,500 permits have been issued out of tens of thousands that are needed, only 2,500. With fewer than 10 homes fully rebuilt and 900 under construction. And they're like, we need tens of thousands. There was 14,000 structures. And you've got 10 homes that have been rebuilt. And so the order claims to cut through the red tape. They're going to audit California's use of $3 billion in federal hazard mitigation grant programming funds. So California got this, and they're like, what are you doing with the money? Where is it going? So Trump has said, this is it. There's too much hardship, economic loss, displacement for survivors, that survivors are genuinely complaining. And here's what I do think is happening. I do think Trump is a builder. I do think he personally fed up with permitting, red tape. Hated that, always has hated that. We've known him for 40 years as a builder who's hated that and knows how to cut through red tape. And he said that what has happened now is this failure to rebuild is due to local failures. So Gavin Newsom has said, no, the feds are withholding funding. But Trump says no, that instead California is cutting wildlife prevention budgets. And they created a regulatory nightmare. And our own home insurance here in California got canceled. And so now we're part of this government sponsored FAIR Act, which means you pay into this even bigger fund, and you have to pay separate homeowners insurance on top of that. So good job, this is sarcasm, by the way, not filling the reservoirs and letting the weeds grow and not doing any of the correct fire mitigation. And now everybody has to pay more. What a freaking surprise. And guess who's in charge of that fund? The state of California. You can't even make that up. It's so predictable, right? You would have to just predict that. So here's some precedents that have been set. He's saying, so the courts are going to say, allegedly, that it's a violation of federalism and the 10th Amendment, that states do have the right. There's a lack of statutory basis for the preemption. There's we have to have laws for this. And it's just insufficient justification evidence. And they're really worried that he is just going to run over all of these environmental protections that have just ratcheted up over the years. But here I wanted to point out that there are historic examples when federal action stepped in. Now, people might not agree with that this was right, but all the way back into 1803, the Congressional Act of 1803 suspended bond payments for affected merchants in Portsmouth, Maine. And there was a big disaster there. And so Congress stepped in and said, you don't have to repay some of these loans. Now that does sound like overreach. That does sound like something, Congress is not supposed to do.
Oh yeah. They're not supposed to get involved with credit cards.
No. Well, and this was 1803. So in the 1900, you had the Galveston catastrophe, where so many, I can't remember how many hundreds of people died. That was just catastrophic, wiped out the island of Galveston. And the Army Corps of Engineers went in and completely had to rebuild that and redo the areas around Galveston. In 1934, you had the Bureau of Public Roads. 1974, you had the Disaster Relief Act of 74 that said we're going to do FEMA. And I started thinking, what is actually happening with FEMA? So in 2012, President Obama went in to New Orleans, remember that, with FEMA. And that turned out to be a disaster, all the waste, fraud, and abuse. But I started thinking, who is keeping tabs on FEMA? FEMA used to be just so key. As of today, FEMA is operated under Trump, part of the Department of Homeland Security, led by Kristi Noem, and it is currently involved in this relief for the storms that are happening across the country, and quite a bit of the storms. As of January 26, the DRF has at least $7.3 billion in resources available for major disasters. It says unobligated, so they have a lot more, but that's just available funds. So the compromise DHS appropriations bill is increased by 18%, includes protections against certain reorganizations, but 17 billion in hazard mitigation grants to states remains held up due to additional scrutiny from the administration. They don't just want this money disappearing as it tends to do. You know how that old saying, a billion here, a billion there, pretty soon you're talking about real money, right?
Right.
So here's something. FEMA recently awarded $250 million for airspace security enhancements ahead of the 2026 FIFA World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Good to know. $250 million for airspace security enhancement. I would really like to know what that was.
Mm-hmm.
We have the storms. We have the Maui wildfire recovery that's still happening. It's been extended.
A lot of
FEMA
weather manufacturing.
but the FEMA money has been extended to February of 2027.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just interesting that a lot of this is going on, and now there is this big fight. It really emasculates on the surface, like the narrative really emasculates Gavin Newsom.
Mm-hmm.
Like Trump is like, I'm just taking over. We're not putting up with you. And I don't think Gavin Newsom, they're going to go to court. We'll see if this actually holds up. But homeless people who had a home and then watched their home burn to the ground because there was no water in the fire hydrants, they're angry. They're very angry. And so God bless Trump. If this is a genuine effort to run over these ridiculous regulations. I remember Suzanne Summers lost her house on the beach, and it took them years and years and years to try and rebuild because of all the regulations. And I can't remember, they gave up after like 5 years or 7 years, and then finally just bought a house somewhere else. They just said, we just couldn't get through the regulation. We went to court, we hired lawyers, we're spending more in lawyers than the house was actually worth. And you think, that's wrong. That's just evil. That's just abusive government. So I like to think he's a white knight on this issue. We'll see.
I think that there'll always be lesser issues that either party can do what they want to with, and the big ticket items belong to the deep state. So you could see a few wins. They're not going to be major. There'll be something though on our right when I think they're allowed to do certain smaller things that aren't that can be changed later, or also, and I don't mean to be pessimistic about it. I'm just saying there's like realms within what a president can do and not do. And the president of the United States, because they're chosen, they can't just do what they want with the big state ticket items. So they have to do their orders. But isn't it crazy? I mean, but they can on certain small issues give those little tiny wins to the party, because the smaller wins are so everyone walks away with the small win going, oh, phew, see, he's on our side. And I'm like, but not with the big state ticket items. And that's what conservatives, our own conservatives, can't understand. So I'm like, ooh, it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
You're 100% right. That there's just bigger forces at work, bigger waves.
There's just
you can only surf in one direction.
The office of the presidency is very controlled, and they're going to control everything. When he says, I want to do the USMCA deal in his first term, they're going to say, it's for jobs, Trump, it's for jobs. And he'll go out and he'll mean it. He'll go, it's for jobs. It has nothing to do with jobs, has everything to do with turning us into a region. Same thing with Greenland right now, but people don't want to understand that. So they just go, oh, it's for our safety. Yeah, it's for our safety. So I'm like, yeah, safety is, we're the biggest dog in the bunch. It's not for our safety, but it's so amazing because it's a parceling of power. And so the president's supposed to be made like they can do anything, and they don't, because they're so controlled, unbelievably controlled with puppet strings. You can make this move and you can make this move, puppet, but you can't make this move, you can't dance. And so it's until people are not gullible anymore, until they finally realize that the office of the presidency has been taken, I don't know. I don't know that. Yeah. I mean, you can always go, well, yeah, there's a good move, because Melissa and I had this conversation too. It's like, well, there's a good move here and a good move there to restore any confidence at all. Right. But they're designed that way. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't have people just giving up on our system entirely. They need us to stay engaged. So, but I do like to think if this is one of those areas, this would be well served. People were really victims in this, and somebody needs to step up. Speaking of the Trumps, I just wanted to touch on the fact that Melania has a movie coming out, and it's her new biographical film. And it's coming out in a few days. And earlier today, she rang the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange, and she's doing these little press tours to talk about her movie. And I just thought, what is this about?
Yeah.
Why would she do this and invite this? And I don't have an answer for that. I don't know exactly, but there was a hilarious article at the Daily Beast. It made me laugh out loud about the movie. This is the title: "Ashamed Melania movie crew members hope documentary flops."
Oh, this is just the war of the emotions. That's all this is fodder.
Well, they have a very insular tribe, and they need the work. They're willing to take the money, but it said Rolling Stone reports that 2/3 of Melania's New York crew requested that their names not be added to the film credits. Another source who said they wish they had the foresight to remove their name from the film says, "I'm much more alarmed now." It's going to be, it's Amazon MGM documentary. And she was paid a lot of money for this. She was paid, I think, $32 million. Another told the publication they hoped the film required really long hours and a highly disorganized, very chaotic environment flops.
Well,
unfortunately, if it does flop, I would feel really great about it.
Well, this certainly will drum up business for the movie. So I'm sure it's by design for sure. I mean, it's gotta get people to watch, right? So you got to see why somebody would not want their name in the credits, even though they were just paid and finished a job,
They took the money, and one Melania crew member told Rolling Stone that Ratner, who was working in the film, was slimy. Melania Trump, while boring, they said was totally nice. And in Hollywood, nobody wants to be as totally nice.
Right.
That's what Ellen was supposedly, right? It's a way to kind of push down on that. But it said Skydance, Paramount CEO David Ellison has greenlighted the director's previous sequel, Rush Hour 4, in November. He had a direct hand in this partnership with Trump, getting this MAGA-friendly thing produced, Brett Ratner. And I had to laugh. Like, people, this is their industry. The movie is happening. And now they're just tying themselves in knots over it. But you know what? I want to see it. I want to see it. I think nobody. Yeah. She didn't ask for this particular life. This has been a ridiculously oppressive type of, term for her. She was not lauded like Michelle Obama, or even Jill Biden was just lauded by the media for what we could not understand. So anyway, isn't that so interesting that it's like, I'm sure they wished it could have done something to stop this. They couldn't. It's happening. And so anyway, I thought that was just great. So the weather is consuming people's minds on the East Coast. And now they're supposed to have another, it says Arctic, they call it something cyclone or hurricane, Arctic storm circuit. And I keep looking at the daily totals for like the South Carolina area. And those totals are in the mid 50s. I'm like, how are they supposed to weather this? If it's going to be, how bad is this going to be? But you realize how important it is. If you're a weather person, you live in a nice area where it's nice most of the time. This could make or break your career as a weather person. You're going to get out there. You're going to sell that storm. It's going to a highlight, right?
Oh, it's a bomb cyclone.
It's a bomb cycle. Yes, the bomb, because Fern wasn't bad enough this week. You know, they showed the snow in Central Park, and it was a couple of inches, and I was like, wow. The worst thing I saw happen from the storm, you know, car wrecks always horrendous, but kids on sleds who get killed because they're being towed by a car or something like that. And it just is heartbreaking. You see a teenager in her beauty just gone.
Have you noticed all the private plane accidents happening like crazy? Yeah.
Yes. Many. And a lot of those are, you know, wealthy. Well, private plane, you can be an average person and have a plane. But you're talking about the jets, the really nice. Yeah. A lot of those. And what do you think that's due to?
You know, it's interesting. There's this one called, I think it's JSX, and it's like for $199, you don't have to go through TSA. You can just jump on this like private jet service.
It's charter. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can fly on the West Coast, right? Well, some East Coast, I guess, in middle of the country, but they have certain flights and you can just jump on for $200 or whatever. And your bags are free and it looks really nice. And, you know, I do worry about the charters because, we're having a lot of people killed in those. I just think that they are starting the sort of like the haves and the have-nots. And I hope I don't sound like a stupid Democrat when I say that, because that's all they care about is the haves and have-nots, and they want everyone to share equally. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about you can fly if you're part of digital ID. You can fly if you have money. You can fly if you hit these certain marks. And also if your social media says a lot of good things about the government narratives. You can't fly they're really, if you're not all those things. So what they're really kind of doing is sort of, you can fly a charter, although there's a ton of accidents. So it's very weird. It's very weird what they're doing. But the eventual plan is that you're not really allowed to fly unless you're pretty much a lefty, because the lefties are the only ones that are going to do every single thing they're told. I would hope that on the right, you're not going to, but you will. I mean, there's a lot of people on the right that are gullible and naive. So you've got a lot of people out there that are going to do what they want them to do, but flying is going to get harder and harder.
I agree with that. You know, it reminds me of when I had moved to New Jersey for my husband's job, and I was in a Republican county. And I went to register to vote, and I registered and brought all my documentation, and they said no problem. And clearly these women were Democrats. I registered Republican, and when I went to vote, was my registration, it was like 6 months later. Nope, couldn't find me anywhere. Big glitch. They didn't know what had happened. So the same can be true of flying. The same can be true of getting you through with those documents. We just don't know. Your stuff just isn't working. It's just not, we're not quite sure. Yeah. And you're on some list that you don't even know about. They can do so much, but I think there's going to be more hell to pay. I like how hard a lot of people are working to stand up and expose a lot of this. You know, some of I've been a little hesitant I can't quite understand all these young independent media people who've gone up to Minneapolis, and they're so easily able to expose all of the multi-billion-dollar fraud, and other people are exposing the secret signal chats of the protesters, and they're these young guys, right? Young, and you're like, how did you get access? How do you have access? And so it's going to be, I think access is going to be the name of the game, and who's going to allow who. I do think it's going to become what part of the tribe who can enforce, who can get you through to these things. But yeah, you're right. It's going to become more challenging. They don't want us flying in the first place. They would rather us not.
No, not with 15-minute cities. With 15-minute cities, the whole idea is that you stay contained. So you have to understand, I think people have to understand that flying, they're trying to show lots of issues and problems. They're trying to steer us. So they're steering us from taking a plane that you can get your connecting flight isn't going to work, and you've got all these issues and problems, to take charters, and then charters are unsafe, and then it eventually becomes no flying for you, like no soup for you on the Seinfeld show. So it comes down to like a gradual steering of where we go. That's what
and
I think.
Just that we should be happy where we're at, just ossified in place, no big movements, no grand movements. And speaking of movements and migration, I know we have a few minutes left. I was listening to some of Tucker Carlson's investigation on migration into Europe. So the EU has come out today and they said, no, European countries are not going to be allowed to buy gas from Russia anymore. Do you remember that big blow up when Trump told the European Union people to their face and to Germany, you're being stupid. You're going to end up in a war with Russia, but you're going to be reliant on Russia for gas. That is so stupid. Now, after 10 years of doing that, they've come out and they said, this was a big mistake for us to commit to only buying Russian energy. And now we're not going to do that. And I just thought, what so much is being resolved in the direction that we said this can only be resolved in one direction.
Yeah.
So when I see things like that, when I see Tucker saying, here's these big immigration routes into Europe from Africa that are being supplied and paid for, and so many people have said, wait a minute, we really did not want this. We, the little people, did not want this.
Well,
I see the exposure as movement.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
Do you see exposure as movement?
Yeah, I see a lot of things and I can't see them. Yes, I'm getting told I'm a wackadoodle left and right now, and it's disarming. It's tough. It's tough. I don't get anything from saying what I say, so it's hard. And I'm seeing pieces come together and directions we're taking, and I get called crazy for telling you what I think the direction is, and I could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm always right. What's weird is the pushback from most people who don't even look into anything. It's like, if you don't agree with their talk show host or their news media personality, then you must be crazy because the general population has to be right. Truth never works like that. Truth is always,
it really doesn't.
Yeah.
No.
It's not owned by the masses, or the asses, as we call them. So
the masses. A lot of times the truth is counterintuitive, and
Mhm,
that's why it surprises us. That's why we all get caught off guard.
Yes.
The truth surprised us about our government, that our government would shut down our society for weeks, months, and in some places they were shut down for more than a year, and schools were closed. People were surprised by that because it was counterintuitive.
Well, they were more than happy to do it. I mean, it was weird. It was like, I have power and I can exercise it, and I can make somebody stay home and not go to a park.
Right.
I'm in.
I'm in. I love it. I love the power. It makes me feel more masculine.
Yeah.
I just think that that's why the truth sometimes surprises. And so when I look at a situation and I think I understand the truth, I try to remember to ask myself, what's the alternative explanation? Is there another explanation to this that I'm just is not as sexy and interesting? And I make myself look at that because I don't want to get caught off guard again. I don't want to be surprised by these things that people do that are like out of the blue.
Got it.
No, it's not out of the blue.
Yeah,
not
for sure. For
those
sure.
things are all
Somebody's
patterns.
telling me to add a little Merlot to my dinner. If I drank, I would. Trust me on that one.
Oh my God.
This Mormon isn't drinking, but hey, the idea is nice. Anyway, I appreciate you, Susan. Thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome. My pleasure as always, Kate. Thank
And
you.
some interesting points always. And so I do want to say just a few things. Number one thing. Okay. This is important too, because these are some things that have been on my mind. So 2 days ago is the anniversary of Lavoy Finicum's murder. Now, You can tell a real patriot being murdered, okay, in the back. Can you even believe that? Anyway, you can tell because the media doesn't say a word about it. They bury it. The feds bury it. The feds exonerate their own when they do a murder, okay? This is how you know the difference between a real, amazing patriot and a fakery being had. And that is when the media is all on board and they're all talking about the same exact story in the same exact narrative. You've been had. I'm sorry, but I think it's this simple. It's so simple, okay? So I knew right away something was wrong because when the government and senators and House members and all of these people are commenting on it and your news media, something's wrong with the event itself. Now, the government's lied to you 10,000 times. I don't know how many more lies. We're like the abused spouse. I don't know how many more lies you got to try to believe to then always give them a pass for what's coming next. But I promise you something's very wrong with the Alex Preddy event. Okay? He knew right where to go the day after the event, didn't even attend the big march. All the cameras were rolling at the same time. There were very few, very controlled crowd, knew exactly who was there. It isn't even the same guy. This guy's much taller than the agents around him. Alex Preddy is very short and little. And this guy has a nice square jaw. The whole thing was fakery. In fact, all the cameras stopped when right before the unmarked vehicle came to get the body. Okay. And of course, the parents and the press going, we didn't even know. And we had to call around. I mean, everything was done the way that you would never legally do something. Okay. Also, they didn't even care about the woman with the backpack. She could have had a gun. And they didn't care about the woman filming. It was as if they wanted her there. Okay. She wasn't even afraid of being shot. Isn't that amazing? That woman had zero fear. Why? Because she's an asset. So look, the entire thing, the next day, not at the big march. No. The next day where you're in a very controlled situation and you're right in front of the new development center for all the Somalis coming in that's getting government grants, okay? He was a Bush fellow. This is a problem. And so when you have media parroting, when you have the government parroting each other and the AP News is already giving you your thoughts on it, they're telling you how to feel about it with 200 adjectives an article, then you know you're being lied to. So I'm sorry, after 10,000 lies and people being executed and the government lying about it, and even COVID, one of the biggest lies they've carried off, not even mentioning 9/11, not even mentioning JFK, not even mentioning all the lies we talk about on the show. How many times they've lied to you? With this, with the media and the government parroting everything, you're going to be like, yeah, totally happened. Why? Because most of the bot media is not even going to question whether it's real or not. They're only going to go into the actions that happened, not whether it's real. That's where we have an issue. Okay. This happens with a lot of media personalities that people think are rebels. They usually don't question whether something's outright fake or not. Okay. So even Candace wasn't talking about whether it was completely fake with Charlie, was she? I must have missed that if she brought that up. She'll talk about who she thinks is the person behind it or the country behind it, Israel, but she won't mention if was it faked, okay? And there are some things that could say, yeah. So I just wanted to mention that. Also, and Lavoy Finicum, bless his heart, he was a true patriot. He was a good man, and they gunned him down. So they gunned him down in the back and let him into a trap to do it. That's who our government is, the one that you trust. So, the one that you trust telling you about an event, okay? The ICE thing is all about growing ICE. Pete Hegseth gave now the bases, okay, to ICE to even grow their operation. Remember how I told Dr. Duke Pest on Monday that this was about growing ICE's power. They will grow ICE's power. And if you're one of those that says on our right that says, well, they have to because we have all these illegals, there are lots of ways to catch illegals. They're drumming up business to gain more power for this one. Okay. They're doing it in Minneapolis because they can get away with a lot of crap in Minneapolis, like George Floyd, who, by the way, that whole situation, very false flaggy. Okay. The guy was an informant who knew the guy that was kneeling on his neck. So I don't believe for a second that that was what you thought you saw. So these things in the press that are brought up this way are brought up that way for a reason, and they are to usually secure change. But the change is always pretty bad for us and our liberty. But you're not going to hear anybody in government talk about that. You're not going to hear anyone in government say, hey, does this lead to a loss of our liberty? And hey, you know, they're bringing up this problem between ICE and the people. You have a lot of people that are protesting. They're getting new protesting rules, new protesting weapons, by the way. So now what? Now what do we do? And the interesting part about that is when you go back to this sonic weapon that they're using, which is an LRAD. So they're saying LRAD in our press, but it's really like this sonic weapon that they're using. Don't think for a second they can't use it against patriots of this country, real patriots and real conservatives, because they will. But here is the deal with the events. So they brought this out in an emergency, and the emergency was Katrina, and they used a really, really kind of small dose of it, right? Because they didn't want to show their cards. Then what they did was they started bringing it to our attention with all kinds of different types of, how do I say this, events. Okay. So then we had the 2005 Katrina, where they introduced it always an emergency. Then they had 2006 to 2008, they were doing the limited law enforcement unveiling. Okay. So they were using it for public address. They were using it for emergency systems. Very, you know, people didn't realize what they were doing with it. 2009, they had a G20 summit in Pennsylvania, and they used it there, and it caused pain, disorientation, and reported hearing damage when people tried to say, hey, I don't like the G20. Okay. So this is when it was finally labeled LRAD, and they only talked about it as LRAD. And then, of course, in the 2010s, it was Occupy Wall Street, Ferguson protests, other large demonstrations. Now, keep in mind, a lot of people are paid to be in these protests. So these are very conjured up, okay? They're very manufactured because the media and the government start saying the exact same thing all over the country. And then what happens is then you have your paid protesters all to try to bring something in that hasn't been shown before, some sort of change, some sort of changing of the wind. Okay. So in the 2010s, this is what was brought in, and they've been bringing in it ever since to sort of say, well, we need this. And right now they're selling it to the right to tell you that you need it for the lefty loonies. Okay. I call them lefty loonies because I'm really pointing out the ones that have just honestly lost their minds. Some of those people, though, are paid to look like they lost their mind. Okay. So keep that in mind when I say that. It's just that you see a lot of crazies. Okay. And so got to identify the crazies, but there's a lot of paid people. And so what they're trying to do is sell to the right now the ability to use these weapons as a good thing to get that crowd under control, you know? And what are they telling you in the press 24/7? They're telling you that these people have all these things planned and they're going to do all these things. So you're saying, well, yeah, my gosh, use any means to protect law enforcement. They want this. This is one of the deep state actions, is to get us into a militarized state of being with our law enforcement. So there's long-term plans for this. Right now, they're just getting the right to buy in, and it's working. Look at the conversations about Preddy. Okay. Preddy is a complete false flag using an actor, using an asset actor as Preddy. That's why he's wearing the glasses. That's why you can't clearly identify him. Okay. That's why they're shifting his image on MSN. Okay. They're doing a whole lot of things right now. Okay. To get you to not understand what in the world just happened. Okay. So the left is saying they just murdered somebody obviously in front of us, which in the play act of theater, it does look like they murdered somebody right in front of us, although I think it was faked. They had certain people filming, and those certain people were supposed to be there. Okay. Then on the right, you're saying, don't bring a gun to a protest. Don't have the ability to protect yourself because the police might think that you're there to be violent and they'll kill you, but they'll be justified. Now, when did we grow into those people? Okay. When did we grow into that thought? That thought's not okay. Okay. You should always be able to defend yourself. Just because you have a concealed carry doesn't mean you're a violent person, but that's what they're trying to sell you. They're trying to sell you that on the right. Be very careful what you say. You have the ability to defend yourself. You have the ability to protest. But on the right, they're trying to sell you a box of rocks that isn't true either. So you have both sides with a lot of messaging, change, fakery, adoption of ideas you didn't believe before, right? Why? Because we're all so gullible, we believe what just happened. Instead of poking holes at the event and saying, no, this didn't make sense. And this didn't, how do you find out? How do you know to be there? Why is he standing in the middle of the street what is he there for? What's he filming for? He has no social media. Okay. Instead of asking all those questions, and the most obvious one, why doesn't he look like the guy that's there? Okay. Instead of asking all that, you're either in camp A, which is, I can't believe that you'd sanction the obvious murder of somebody, but it was faked. And B, you are, if you go in with a concealed carry, you're asking for it if you do something. Now, they're growing ISIS power, and that power is going to be used against us. What they're doing right now will be used against us. So be careful what you wish for and what you're out there talking about, because I don't think sometimes we even realize what we're asking for, I don't think so. So was he a fictional character? Asks Karen. Well, you know what? I don't know, because there are posters of a guy that looks pretty similar, although a lot of people could look like this guy, as an IDF soldier that was killed. You never know. I've seen false flags where they used, say, a little boy who didn't die, one that washed up on shore, and one that was on a poster that didn't die and they claim he died, and one that was at Sandy Hook that ended up on a poster in Palestine. So as a victim in Palestine, same boy, so exact boy, same exact picture. So how much trickery is involved? I don't know, but I know that I've got eyeballs in front of my face, and I can actually see that this guy does not resemble the little tiny scrawny Alex Preddy. I know that. So I know this event isn't real. No matter what they did with him or how they utilize him or whether he's fictional or not, isn't the most important thing, because no one might know. How maybe only a couple of people will ever know that answer. But I will tell you that something is very afoot here that isn't right, and we are not even questioning the authenticity of the event itself, and we should be. There's a huge problem there that we're not addressing. And so when people say I'm bizarre for saying that, I laugh, because I'm like, really? You said that when I said COVID was a trap and a lie from day one. You said that when I said Syria, that the guy didn't gas his people, because he didn't. By the way, anybody seen him? Nope. No one's seen him for years. Anyways, so there's all kinds of lies that we get told, and I'm just giving you my gut feeling and also the analyzing the event itself. And I did a lot of research on that neighborhood. I did a lot of research on how many people would be there and how controlled it was and how few people were actually on the ground. And ChatGPT kept lying to me. It was really funny, actually, because I kept saying, no, it happened on this street. No, it happened in front of this center. No, it didn't happen in front of this eatery. It happened in front of the new development center. So it was interesting to watch that, and to watch ChatGPT try and lie so many times. And then say, oh, you caught me. Yeah, you're right. So look, be on guard. Just anything the media parrots with the government. Okay. And it dominates the headlines like no other. Oh boy, this is the time to ask some questions about the event itself. Okay. Remember Uvalde? Remember the South Carolina church? Remember the church in Texas? Remember all those false flags we talked about on the show? Okay. Never heard another word about him, did you? No, you didn't. They don't do the candlelight montage on 60 Minutes about the remaining family members and friends. No, because a lot of them are crisis actors. That's why. So they can't. So that's why you never heard another word about them. They got their payoffs, just like this guy got a GoFundMe account. What's the GoFundMe account for? His parents, he's not little. He doesn't have any kids. He doesn't have a wife. What's the GoFundMe for Alex Preddy? It's just to give money to his family, to his parents. Okay, so the GoFundMe is payout. It's a payout. Obama did it through United Nations, and they would raise money through United Nations, and then those would be the payouts, so that it was never directly linked to the government. Now they do it so that it's just a anonymous GoFundMe, and hey, the awful lot of money. Remember the chick in the Supreme Court justice? Remember that? Oh, when I was in college, he did something to me, and no one could remember the event. Okay, what did she have? A GoFundMe account. It was millions. She reaped millions for portraying the actress who was accosted by a Supreme Court judge. Okay, now that Supreme Court judge doesn't have a great track record and was not good. Okay, he hasn't been great. But at the end of the day, she was lying, and she was an actress, and she got her payout from GoFundMe, because this way it can never, ever be directly linked back to the government as a payout. See, they know what they're doing. Okay, so I'm trying to think of my list of things, but let's see here. Oh, Brian Ardis is coming on the show tomorrow, and so glad to have him on. So I'll be on the same bat channel, the same bat time. And speaking of bats, those pesky bats that keep accosting all of us, but never did before 20 years ago in history. The bats that keep trying to bite us and give us a NIPA or NIPA or whatever the hell it's called. Gates was talking about 5 years ago. Now it's in the news. So yes, those bats, they're so stupid. Here's another bat that's diseased. And you're about to get, bit by them. So no, I don't remember the pesky bats always trying to bite us, but okay. Anyway, if you believe that, I've got some oceanfront property in Arizona, which, by the way, could happen. Is there a big earthquake coming? Well, we do have the ability for weather warfare and manipulation. So I'm going to go with yes. Yes, on Jeopardy for $500. Yes, Alex, on that one. So yeah, we could. But look, please. I know that you probably love your talk show host that you rely on, but think back to all the narratives that they told you about were true. Because I will guarantee you, having been in this business for 15 and a half years, I will guarantee that they went with every single narrative initially, never questioning a thing initially, until the tide rolled and people started to wake up and they go, oh, yeah. COVID. Oh, yeah. A year later. Oh, COVID. Yeah. But initially, what was their reaction? They're just as bad as the leftist media, the controlled media on the left, Fox News, CNN, MSN, you name it. So just remember PBS, all of them. So just remember that. Remember that who you trust initially went with every single narrative that they could. Something wrong with that. There's something wrong with that. All right. Remember I mentioned copper, that you need copper because they took it out of our food supply back in the 1930s for a reason, because it was a long game plan of making us ill. Copper plays the biggest role out of all the minerals to tell the other minerals what to do. Don't just get copper IQ, get recuperate copper IQ. Okay, there's a difference. And I take recuperate. It's better. And that one is on the website right now, fully stocked. And you can get, I think, 15% off. It's amazing. And these are the best supplements ever. I've been taking these for 5 years. 5 years now, 6 years. Anyway, formulaiq.com, formulaiq.com. And this will now be the conductor of all the other minerals to tell them what to do. Take it daily. Okay, please. We do not have enough copper in our system for a reason. They knew what they were doing. Evil always knows what it's doing. Satan knows what he's doing. What can I say? Anyways, thanks, you guys. I really, really appreciate you. I appreciate you for a number of reasons, but I really appreciate that that you'll listen, because I'm telling you, it's hard to be out there trying to say things, and when they sound completely different from everybody else on the block, and then you get blamed for that, and I'm going, doesn't that scream to you that everyone else on the block isn't who they say they are? Because I don't have an agenda. I don't gain anything. I lose people when I do this. And because I'm just here for the truth. I'm not here for a reason. I'm not here to gain. Okay. It's just authentic. I'm just here. I'm here doing this because I love the truth. And I am not going to be somebody. I've been offered lots of things in my life to take me away from this and turn me into a different kind of media person. And I will not do it. Okay. Maybe because of age, maybe because I'm older. I don't know. If I was younger, I don't know. I'd hope I had character when I was younger, but you know, when you're young and dumb, you'll kind of be talked into anything. In your older years, not so much. Anyways, be careful of those bats out there, and be faithful, be fearless, and I'll see you back here tomorrow with Dr. Ardis. Thanks, you guys.